Hi there and welcome to Bustthenet. On today's show, we've got another getting started with series and we are heading to Portugal. It's Benfica. Yes, so SLB, I think that's how they are identified in the game. So it's, I think, I don't know, can I call them Benfica in the game? Thank you very much. Here we go. This is one of those clubs in Europe that have got a very fantastic, a very, very good youth system, right? So this is going to be interesting because this is one of those clubs where they've got, you have to read about it. It's covered in a few books that about Benfica's youth system. So I'm going to be very excited, if this was one of my long-term saves because you've got a lot of potential. I mean, theoretically speaking, of course, it'll be interesting to see whether they meet the reality, right? Portugal, Benfica, you've got Sporting Lisbon and Benfica. These are the big clubs in Portugal. So when you get here, you're going to be directed to develop players using the club youth system. As far as the obligations they have in the transfer market, apparently they're looking at this guy, a German goalkeeper, joining us in January of 2018. And we've got all these players out on loan. And the injury update, well, Filip Kronivokic is out for a while, 4 to 7 weeks. So it's not going to be good. Once again, the first thing we do, finances. Wow, 13 million. Not too bad, actually. But their scouting budget is 720,000. Have you noticed a pattern here? Okay, I've done enough of this Getting Started video series to realize that even clubs like Manchester City have the same scouting budget. Naturally, it doesn't make any sense. However, it's very easy for us to deal with this because if you think about it this way, the scouting budget is a function of your transfer budget as well. So depending on how large your transfer budget is, you can always mess about with getting yourself a bigger scouting budget, so to speak. Now, people have been asking me questions, right? How do you manage the whole scouting scene? Because it's annoying because sometimes they got 50 recommendations, sometimes they have 80 recommendations. Well, this is what I do. Now, I don't like to have every Tom, Dick, and Harry, Mary, Jane, Sally coming through my doors telling me that every player is recommended. So, the stars rating, well, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 is a function also of your potential. So if you're not interested in any low potential players, then go up to like 70% or 60%. Just choose one number. Then you weed out quite a lot of average players. So I like to I like to start at 60 because that's more or less 3 stars. That's how I like to play my game. Right? So this is like this is like 2 stars or 1 star. This is 3 stars, this is 4, then this is 5 stars. Like you get the drift. But it's not just stars alone. There are other things that influence the minimum recommendation level. Now once you've done that, you come here and choose your entries. Now, how many players do you want during the transfer window? So if you're into, you want a lot of recommendations to come within the transfer window, then go for like 50 entries. Now these are all going to come into these white cards, big cards that stare at you. All right, fine. Then once the transfer window is over, like outside of the transfer window, you can tell them to scout once a month, come back with about 20 entries. That way you don't get flooded. Every month they come to you with 20 names that they recommend. Now, the thing here is this. Personally speaking, they don't do a very good job. From what I've seen, there've been a lot of complaints about how the scouts don't really. I mean, if you tell them you want a young talent, you'd expect them to go to leagues or young leagues where the young compete and give you recommendations, but sometimes they end up in some real bizarre places. So some people have actually really like rigorously tracked them. I really admire those guys who've been doing that, and my hat's off to you because I don't want to do that because it's just going to make me pissed. So you can actually do that. Now the other thing you can do with this scouting, right, is you're gonna have all kinds of people coming to you. You're gonna have scouts, you're gonna have players. Scouts will have assignments as well. Your analysts will come to you, your agents will come to you. You get suggestions. I have absolutely no clue who does this. Maybe coaches that come in, they say, "Hey, I was in this club before. We've got Dr. Ass there, and we've got Dr. Thumbs there, and we should bring Ass and Thumbs to our club." Then they'll play with each other. Okay, but then what I normally do is I just go for requested, whatever I want. The analysts, now agents is quite interesting, because sometimes I find that some agents, they've got nice players with them. So it really depends on how you want to do this. You can, of course, go to an agent and see who are the players within his roster. That's another way of getting players into the club, I guess. But then again, that presupposes the fact that you actually have money. If you don't have money, then forget it. Okay, what about then you get into the players search, senior package. Once again, my favorite way of playing right now, and I've perfected the art almost, is I only scout when it's preseason, going into the first 2 months, and then I stop. Then I zero my package, and then because this senior package gives you access to the whole world if you wanted to. So I can go, because you're only paying 20k per month, right? Your budget is 240k. It's not like they're going to take 240k right out and go, dude, pay us our 240k. So what do? I only pay 40k. So I go out there, I spend 40k on my scouting budget. I take the world package. Then I go through the world package. I can send my scouts. I give me 100 recommendations from the world. They might come back. Or I go into the database that will be available there. Then, look at this. Okay, we go to the world package, 204. Before we do that, the number of players 13127. That is that's like your database that you got. You pay for a database. They give you a database. Here you go. We have 13,000 players in our database. All right, let's go for the world package. Remember, we had 13,000. Now we have 13,827. So the database has been increased by 700 players. So it's up to you. So if you don't want that and you just want to go to the Premier League, then your database drops to 6,963 players. So what I normally do is I max my database out. Then if I max my database out like this, okay, then I come in here to the player search. Then this window opens up with all the possibilities that I want to look for. Then once I get I could go through this with a filter and just do it my old way, like the way I like to play, right? So I don't want to waste too much time. So I go in there and I want determination, I want work rate, I want bravery, ding ding ding. Okay, nothing less than 11. Anybody less than 11, don't bother. My value, I'm looking for players that are at most, now I'm at Benfica, I don't really have a lot of money, so 2.5 million. All right, that's done it. Scout recommendation is at least maybe, 0, because the scouts haven't really, if you imagine this, you go for 80%. Scouts are going to give you 0 because they haven't really scouted anyone yet. So you leave it at 0. Then look at the age range. We don't want old farts, so we'll take 25. And that's it. Now, when we've done all this, we open up, and guess what? We now have 1,375 players that fit my bill. Ramiro, they have a range there. Now, based on this alone, I can decide whether to scout him. Just those numbers. Positioning 13, work rate 16, bravery 16. He fits my category to a T. Midfielder on the right. I don't even need to scout him. If I'm serious about him, I will. Instead, I put him into my shortlist. This is one way of doing it. So instead of having all these scouts, my scouts only, I wish I could pay my scouts on a part-time basis, because I only need them for like 2 months. So you add these guys, then you eventually start populating your shortlist. From your shortlist, then you can, if you think you need more information, because in my shortlist, then I've got a scouting overview panel that gives me a bit more information. Then I go through this and I go like, okay, I want to see what, a bit more of this player. Perhaps I want to get more information, but the knowledge level is already 66%. So that's enough for me. And I usually stop at about 70% knowledge. I don't never go past 80. So that should be enough. Once you get the shortlist going, then it's time for you to start thinking your place, that's when you go. That's one way of playing it. Of course, the other way is you depend on this. Like here, we have a knowledge level of 76%. That should be enough. You don't need any more than that. You see, it's all full. You don't need any more information. What do you want to know? Whether he eats chicken rice for breakfast? Seriously? Why do you need 100% knowledge? Scouting required for player traits. Yeah, it's not going to kill us if he's got bad player traits, right? All right, okay, this is more important. Attributes drive the game. They give you attributes at 60%, 70%. I'll take it. Plus he's 77%. Wow, he's a very good signing. Hassan sits, not too bad. We got Jonas, we have Harris. He could be a very good substitute, and he's only 24 years old. He might be an Egyptian wonder kid, waiting to blossom. So what we do is we add him to the shortlist without thinking too much. Then this is how I would play this game. And if you've got only 5, and then after a while your scouting recommendations, they don't filter, they don't give you every Tom, Dick and Harry, right? They give you players that make some sense. And this is perhaps the most easiest way of playing the game. However, if you want to be completely ADD about this whole scouting thing, and you really need 100% knowledge, and you really need to scout the whole world, and you really need all that information to make a decision to play a simple game, then you're probably gonna have issues. So I would really suggest that you come up with a simple system. Now, scouting does work in the game. It has its issues, right? But if you streamline it, if you find a process, trust me, you'll go through these things very quickly. I mean, you probably end up like me, ignoring scouting for like a few weeks after that. I mean, occasionally the reports come in, I go through the reports, like, I might want to have a coffee, and I sit down, I go through the reports, and that's about it. Okay, so enough about scouting. It's like it does tend to piss me off sometimes. All right, training coaches. The second thing I do is whenever I go into a club, I zone in on my coaches, because I need to know if they're overworked, underworked, whether we can do something with them. I call myself the test beta, because this is just to help you guys out. So I'm not going to manage this. Unless there are some saves where I actually want to try and play them out, then I've got a pretty average coach running around, which is kind of cool. 3 stars everywhere. Okay. We know immediately that goalkeeping might have an issue. If you have more than 2 or 3 goalkeepers, it might be an issue. But if you only have one, really not such a big deal. But his workload is already going to be light. You look at this. He doesn't have that many players anyway. It's not like you have 30 goalkeepers. All right, this might be an issue because we got strength and aerobic, but we're going to have light. When the players come back, this is going to get heavy. If you do fitness in preseason. So you're going to have to look at your coaches and decide whether or not you need to bring any more in. And that is a function of whether or not you can hire staff. So if you're looking here, we've got 3 coaches, 3 slots for 3 more coaches. When we go back to our training, we realize, okay, fine, we need 1 here for sure. We may need 1 more here. It can be any category, honestly. You need 1 coach to... You need 1 of your coaches to be half decent. Like this guy isn't very decent. Marco Pedroso, if you look at his attributes, right, and you want to be a coach, he's actually a chief data analyst, right? Coach/chief data analyst. So what you can do to the chief data analyst is he becomes the dude that goes around making things light for everybody. So he goes around and says, yes, I'll reduce the burden for everybody. That's it. So now all you need to do is you need to go out and get a coach that at least gives you an option. We got tactics, we got ball control covered. Now all we need is maybe a defending coach, right? Here we look at the assistant manager, he's attacking, he's another average coach, so he gives you 3 stars at least. We come out, we get about 3.5 stars. So you need to get at least 1 coach. I would suggest going to get a coach that has got at least 4 stars you can put into shooting. Right, one of those categories, then you'll be fine. And then you get 1 more coach for your goalkeepers. That's it, you're sorted, because you could possibly do a 2-2 split this way. So instead of them playing like this, you get another coach to do this section, and you get like 4 stars or close to 4 stars. That's the way you balance your coaching with 3 coaches. It's really an easy fix for Benfica. There's nothing too much to think about. Now, when it comes to Benfica as well, you really seriously need to look at your team. You gotta make sure that your coaches are all there. Your medical team is ready. So you need to get at least 1 more physio and 1 more sports scientist for your boys over there. And if I'm not mistaken, they don't have any scouts and data analysts, which is not really that critical for them. When you manage a club like Benfica, where the youth development is a core part of the success of this club, you also want to spend some time dealing with the training itself. Now, here, I'm going to pop up one of my training views. Okay, so I've got my training views in here, and if I look through the club, there are a lot of good potential players here. So you do not want to screw training up. And this is where I take training over myself, because I don't trust the AI. So here we go, balance average. Now, what do we do with the youth? Now, okay, if I were if I wanted a specific style of football in my players, I probably swing towards doing a customized training program for them. That means I have like a focused training program over like a whole season, 3 months. I switch and I switch and I switch. So I go tactics, I go training, I go attacking, right? Because they all hit certain attributes. Now, this is not ideal for a lot of players in this game because I don't think there are many of you out there who like to micromanage to that level. So you can definitely go for balanced training, and then what you do is you go into individual players and you specify focuses for them, and that should work. So here we want to set it on high. We want to make sure individual loads are good. Then it's only pre-season, so give them match tactics to work on. And when it comes to the match tactics, make sure they use the main team's match tactics. So whatever tactics you've got in place for the main team, use them for your junior team as well. So here we got the tactics. We can see the overview. You cannot change the tactics that they handle by. You cannot change tactics for this team as they're handled by How Tral How. Okay, so we can't do that at the moment. So what we do is we go to the staff, and we go to the responsibilities. Then we go to SLB. Play matches with this tactic. Use the first team tactics, or you set them to a specific formation for the rest of the season. Now, I wish that we could give them a tactic to use all the time. But here, if you want them to get familiar with your first team tactics, get them to use the first team tactics, and you do it from here. And once you've done that, sets first team players in need of match winners to be available for this team. So then if you have first team players that need to come in, let them come in here and get their, this is the reserve. So let them have let them get familiar with your main tactic. You do the same thing for under 19s and your reserve team. So your first team is pretty easy. So that's your responsibilities all set up. Why do we do this? We do this because we want our players, because this club has got a strength, and the strength is its youth in the club. So you want to maximize them coming through the ranks. And it's a lot of fun. Trust me, Benfica are one of the more, Sporting Lisbon and Benfica are really enjoyable series because they've got such good academies and they've got so many young talented players coming through the ranks that you can possibly go very far with these clubs. Okay, so we've done the Benfica. We've taken care of training and coaching at that level. Now, what about the rest of the team? So this is where, okay, I've confirmed my changes. Let's go to the squad. Now it's time for us to take a good long look at what we have, in the club in terms of their DNA for their defenders. Now, before we even do this, you always need to make sure that you find out how you stack against the rest of the competition. I don't know how many times I said this. It's so getting to be very, very boring. Every time I start a video, you need to find out how you stack against the bloody competition. So, okay, now let's look at the situation here. Benfica are probably one of the best clubs in Portugal. Probably the number one club in Portugal. All right, so we know they are 13. 13 seems like, okay, fine, we can probably sail through the whole Portuguese league. Not a problem. But we want to take on the best in Europe. 13 is not good enough. Manchester United is 17. Ajax is about 16, 15. No, Ajax is 15. All right. Most of the top clubs in the Champions League all hover between 16 to 17 for positioning, 17 for off the ball. So you need to bear this in mind. With Benfica itself, you're doing quite well, right? In Portugal, no problems. But here the question becomes, how do you want to play this game? If you're playing it for the long run to make Benfica the greatest club in European history, possible. But your yardstick cannot be the Portuguese Premier League. It's got to be the Champions League. So that's how you're going to have to think. So every time you see numbers like this, they're not relevant. So you go to the squad, then we look at our players. I mean, for where we are playing, where we are, in Portugal, these are like great numbers. 13, 16, 14, 13, 12, 12, 12. Pretty good. Anticipation 12, 17. This guy, Jardel, is very, very good, right? So he's a 31-year-old player. He's got very good, strong mentals as a defender. Anticipation 17. Teamwork and positioning, fantastic. His acceleration is not bad. Marking, tackling, man, he's just he's better than some of the defenders that are playing for Liverpool. All right, so okay, we've got some players here. We got you got so many. You got like most of these players are pretty strong. Now, what options do we have then? Then I'm now looking at my wing backs. So I'm looking at my wing backs. Positionally, they're not too bad. Then we're looking at the right back and the left back. And they've got quite a few players like on loan out of the club. That normal. We got Alex Grimaldo. Now, Grimaldo is a very familiar name. I see him come into my games quite a lot. So I think this player, you want to make sure he plays a lot because this is a very talented youngster in the club. A very strong. Look at his acceleration, 14. This is one player that is very intelligent. What I call a cerebral fullback. Right? He's intelligent enough to actually launch attacks. He's intelligent enough to create problems for the opposition. He can play in a lot of roles. He can play as a fullback, complete wingback, and an inverted wingback. Why can he play as an inverted wingback? His off the ball is 15. His decision making is 14. He shows a lot of intelligence on the ball. His first touch is incredible. 15 for a fullback. That is fantastic. So if you're into buying players right now, this guy is one of the best fullbacks I will get if I was managing a side, man. So 7.75 million is a steal if they're willing to sell him. Okay, so we've got this guy is pretty good. This means that Grimaldo can be an attacking fullback or an attacking wingback on the left flank. You can even build your attack around him. Now let's take a look at the defensive midfielders. What do we have in that regard for this team? All right, so in terms of positioning, we've got? Oh my lord, who's this guy? He's a key player, Bomiv, the Serbian. Wow, he's got a lot of aggression though, but he is a beast. This guy is a beastly defensive midfielder. So you got a very strong defensive midfielder. You've got Andre Almeida who can play as a fullback. This guy is more of a supporting fullback. We don't expect to see him bomb up and down the pitch. Then we've got Grimaldo. We know. And one beast of a defensive midfielder. Then we've got Philip Augusto, who's a long way away from being a great fullback, right? But this guy, you need to look at his development reports, his coach report to see how far he has got to go. He ranks, he doesn't rank as one of the best players in the central position. So okay, then we got Andreas Samaris. Okay, we got a very aggressive team here. I mean, have you seen any? I've clicked on 2-3 players and the aggression levels are just unbelievable. Okay, Pizzi is a playmaker, right? So he's a very, very good player who can bring the ball up. He handles the ball very well. Very good balance and agility. Off the ball movement is a 14, which is good. The thing here is this: people often ask me why. They see a player in the game and they go like, "Why didn't you put him in an attack? Why did you make him a ball-winning midfielder?" I'm always looking at their attacking attributes. Just because he plays like that in real life doesn't mean that he translates well in FM. Because in FM is a game. The attributes determine what they play like. So I'm not going to get too fussy about making them translate to real life, because honestly, I'm not going to go that direction with this team especially. So we got Eduardo Salvio. Okay, he's a pretty damn decent winger, and he can play wide right as well. Okay, so we've got a few very, very interesting options. We got 2 players who can play in a defensive midfielder role. We got one Pizzi who can play as a punching back through the middle. And other than that, we have a youngster here, Martin Krian, who should be given lots of opportunities because he's also got a lot of potential. So you've got quite a few players. And we are out on the right flank. We got this Eduardo, whatever, he's Salvio, who's also pretty amazing. And we've got another one there. So we've got 2 attacking midfielders who can punch through the middle. Lots of options with this team in an attacking sense. What about the attacking midfielders? All right, we've got Pizzi, we've got strikers. Do they have any wide players? Here we're looking at off the ball. So the first thing I do is I look at off the ball. Attack, off the ball. Who's got the highest off the ball? We've got Harris as a striker. We've got Jonas, who can play as a striker as well. We've got Rafa Silva. Oh my lord, look at his acceleration. Is 17. His off the ball is in 15. His vision is 14. His dribbling is 15. Oh my goodness, we have to... Okay, now I was thinking of a tactic earlier. Now I'm thinking of a different tactic immediately. So we've got quite a number of options with this team when it comes to attack. So we've got wide right and wide left players. So now it becomes, okay, what kind of player traits does he have? Runs with ball often, cuts inside from the left wing. So he cuts inside from the left wing. So he's going to be inside forward, possibly on the left side. And we've got one more player cutting in from the right side. So we got Pizzi who can cut in from the right side, and we've got that guy who can cut in from the left side. Very dangerous, but this guy is more like a playmaker than anything else. And we got a few strikers who can help finish, put the ball into the back of the net. But what we want is a striker who has a lot of intelligence at holding up the ball and bringing others into play. Basically, we're looking for a complete forward, and whether we have one in this club, it's gonna it won't knock us over. But we can definitely work around that. So we got a 33-year-old Brazilian, strength 11, but deadly finishing. So he's quite slow. Passing is good. Decisions and vision definitely there. So maybe we can use him as a kind of a player that can distribute the ball. But he is not the tallest player, so it is not going to make a very good target. So this makes it very interesting. What kind of a system can we come up with Benfica? I mean, how are they going to play? This is a dilemma, because I'm very interested in creating something for them. When it comes to tactics, things get interesting with Benfica. Benfica actually play a 4-4-2 in real life. They also play a 4-2-3-1, and they've used different systems in the past. Now, if I were to use a 4-4-2 with Benfica, this is probably the configuration I go with. There's nothing too, there's nothing too special about any of the PIs here. We just kept everything very simple, box basic, as you can see. No changes. I'm using work ball into box play where the push higher up, use offside, try and prevent short goalkeeper discipline, control and structured. And I'll probably use these players too. Now, might come as a surprise, but I'm very partial to Luisao. Okay, I am. I've got this sentimentality towards one of the greatest central defenders in Portuguese history, Luisao. He may be 36 years old, and he may have slow acceleration, but his positioning, his leadership, this guy, okay, so he's not the fastest, but I will definitely play him. And I've been using him for the last couple of games. He hasn't done too badly. Look, averaging 7.2. He's at 3 starts. He's already helped to create 1 goal. This man is a legend in my book, so I'm going to use him if I was playing Benfica. Then, of course, you got Jardel, and you've got no shortage of other players in this team that can step up. Lisandra Lopez can also come in. He's pretty good in the box as well. So you've got these 3 very strong defenders. Also, would I play the 3-man back line? I might, but then again here with Luisao, I might be pushing it a bit too hard. He could be a player on cover, but still I'm not too sure. But here in this system, yeah, why not? It puts a lot of burden on the back line, but the thing is here, Lubomir Feza, he is just beastly at the back. If you look at his attributes, positioning 18, decision making 16, concentration 18, work rate 16, tackling 18, marking 15. Liverpool, please buy him. Seriously. This guy is just so bloody good at the back. In midfield, rather. He's 29 years old. He's still got some ways to go, but he definitely adds a lot of weight, strength in midfield. And then you got Pizzi, attacking midfielder. Where else are you going to play a player like this? The only downside with Pizzi is this. The reason why he's an attacking playmaker and support is because he gets into the opposition area. This guy does get up there. And because he does come, if you were to look at his player traits, because I recommend you always look at player traits. Comes deep to get the ball, plays 1-2, likes to switch balls while the flank. He can easily place an AMC who drop deep. He's playing as an attacking playmaker and support, so he's probably going to shuttle between the two. But his passing range makes him an extremely dangerous player. Passing 16, decisions 13, and his vision is 16. So he's going to be able to string passes diagonally across the pitch. Then, of course, we have a winger on attack here. Now, this is a good thing about Benfica. Benfica have a few players that can play this position. They got Chervi here, and they have another player called, let me try and remember what the other player's name is. He's an attacking midfielder. Zivkovic, he also can play on this flank. So if they've got wealth there, and they got a youngster called Filip Krovinoc, from Winoik, whatever his name is. He can be trained to play here as well. There's gonna be growth for these players. I mean, I wouldn't stick him in straight away because you got Savio here. There are more than enough players to go around, for the 4-4-2. Up top is where the debate is gonna be. The reason why I prefer two striker combinations. I mean, two strike forces work in FM18 very well. I mean, in FM18, three striker combinations also work fairly well. But here, what we want to do is we want to combine strengths. Jonas is not bad, Seferovic is not bad. There's one player in this side, Raul Jimenez. Now, he may not be a player that you jump at and go like, wow, he's a great striker. But he got jumping, reach, and heading. And this guy is pretty good in the air and very good off the ball. So he can always play up top as well as a DLF on support. So you've got options here to play twin strike force. It's certainly an option. Now the other tactic I was looking at was I call this the Portuguese 4-3-3. Now I used to manage Sporting Lisbon in FM15, and I used to hate this system. I used to get thrown this system by the air all the time I was in managing there, and I used to get very annoyed because it's a very defensive system. It is also very hard to break down, and if you don't watch it, you get hit quite hard. This is a very good counter-attacking system, and the key here is this role. This role can change during the game. You can change from a DLF on support to an advanced forward. The moment you get a lead, the moment you turn this player to an advanced forward, the whole game changes. It becomes a long ball game, where the attacking playmaker here will be Pizzi again. Starts pumping balls through the middle, straight for this guy to break through the lines. You got a wing on attack, inside forward and support. Defensive midfielder and a Seconde Volante. Once again, I'm not using anything too flashy with the play instructions except for this guy. I've told him to get further forward. Up top, nothing too fantastic. Now, of course, if you want to do a high block, you want to do forward pressing, you might want to put pressing on these three guys. But remember, if you're going to be playing counter-attack, you want these guys to be free and ready to search at the AI. Here at the back, we got a fullback on attack, and we got a wing back on attack as well. We got two central defenders and a goalkeeper on defense. Basically everything is the same. Here the option is push high up, use offside trap, prevent short goalkeeper distribution. This system can be played on control fluid. It can also be played on control structured. If I go in and advance forward on attack, probably I'll go control structured, and I use this to break sides. To hit sides on the break. So it's a fantastic little system that can be used in Portugal. Since everybody in Portugal, since half the sides in Portugal seem to throw this at me, yeah, Benfica should be throwing this to the rest of the competition as well. And then of course we got the 4-2-3-1. Again, this team can work with the 4-3-3-1. The question would be this role here: would you want it to be a Carrillo or not a Carrillo? In this particular system, Pizzi will have to move forward. So you got Feza as well as they have another DM who can play there, Andreas Samaris. Now, this player is you have to be a bit careful with Samaris. Samaris has a fair bit of aggression. Now, I didn't go into the game. I didn't check whether his dirtiness rating is very high, but I'm always very concerned when I have a very aggressive defensive midfielder. Then I spend the whole game staring at him. Of course, they have other players like Andre Almeida who can also play in that position. So you don't have a shortage of defensive midfielders here who can play in this position. So no issue. You got four backline with four. Naturally, you might want here again. Luisao has got the experience to play in this position. He might be slow, but Luisao and Jardel, they're so good they are very good central defenders. However, once again, here I'll probably start on control structured or standard structured. Why? Because of Luisao and Jardel. If I wanted to play a bit more aggressively, then I'd probably go with Lisandro Lopez. Up top, you got a winger on support, AP on support, inside for an attack, winger on support, DLF on attack. As you can see, again, I'm not using a lot of PIs. I'm keeping things as simple as possible here. And work ball into box, whip crosses, play wider, prevent short goalkeeper distribution. All three tactics can work with Benfica. I have to admit, I have to admit my phone is beginning to annoy me, and do apologize. The 4-4-2 is my first favorite. The second favorite is hitting every Portuguese side with the same formation that annoyed me for the better part of FF15. I hated this system because a lot of teams were throwing this at me, and when I was a manager in the English side, whenever I met Portuguese competition, they throw this damn system at me. It used to piss me off. I actually lost a very long unbeaten streak to this formation. I absolutely hated this, but here we go. Benfica should be using this. I'm not saying should be, they can use the system. So there are 3 systems that you can use. It's all up to you. I'm not going to go out there and say they should be playing a specific system. It all depends on the kind of football you enjoy. Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of Getting Started with Benfica. Now, take my word for it. Benfica is a lot of fun. If you're into the whole youth development save cycle, Benfica can be very, very fun, as was Sporting Lisbon for me. So I'm speaking from experience when I say these Portuguese clubs, they'll surprise you with the talent that can come through the ranks. So I hope you guys have a good one. And if you have any questions, know where to find me on Twitter at Bustthenet or addicted2fm.com, my website. Once again, I'd like to thank all my patrons for their continued support of this channel. You make these kind of shows possible for the rest of the community. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.